Diversity in sports and entertainment. We're diving into how inclusion on and off the field is crucial for marginalized communities. Advocate Today, I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist. All over the world, we are seeing attacks on marginalized communities, but representation for these groups on the biggest stages can change the hopes and dreams of many. The Octagon Sports and Entertainment Network partners with some of the world's biggest athletes, entertainers, and brands with a commitment to diversity and inclusion. I caught up with OSEN's head of inclusive diversity, Stephen Macias, about the company's diversity initiatives and today's landscape for marginalized communities. Welcome, Stephen Macias, Head of Inclusive Diversity for Octagon Sports and Entertainment Network. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Oh, really glad to be here. Thank you so much for making some space for us to have a conversation.
Of course. Well, I really just want to begin with your background and how you got into this work that you're doing and what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when people ask sort of what my career path has been into the job that I have now, it's sort of like this. It's been very nonlinear. As the grandson of immigrant farm workers, and you're sort of chasing the American dream, your family looks to sort of push you in a direction of something that has some financial stability, something that makes sense as we're sort of chasing that American dream, whether it's a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant, I mean, any number of things. Working in LGBTQ and working in sort of media, marketing, comms, diversity, equity, inclusion, not the first thing that always comes to mind. But I think one of the things that I've had the real pleasure and privilege of doing over the years is working across a lot of different things that I cared about. So working at GLAAD as a national entertainment media director, working and volunteering my time as the president of the board of Outfest, the Los Angeles Gay and Lesbian Film Festival, working at Here TV, which then became Here Media as we acquired The Advocate, Out, Plus Magazine, working with people like you over the years in transforming digital properties from things that were called SheWired to something that became advocate.com, over the years has really been parcel of my passion and purpose.
You've been doing things around this kind of work for so long. I wonder, would you talk a little bit about the big changes that you've seen from, say going back to when you were working with our company back in, 2008 was when I first met you, to now, and what the focus around inclusivity really is or has become?
I think, I mean, the past couple of years, with the pandemic, with the areas around social justice being front and center, really has pulled back the sort of the curtain, if you will, around systemic racism, systemic homophobia, systemic gender issues. And I think for me, the past couple of years really has been about helping people understand the system that has been intentionally designed to exclude people or to hold people back, how it is that we very intentionally dismantle that system to make it more equitable for all people. So I think, the past couple of years has been really, eye-opening for a lot of good people to see what happened with the pandemic, for example, and how it disproportionately affected communities of color. Whether that was having no safety net around not having a job, not having generational wealth passed down, and what that meant for a safety cushion for communities of color, and then the intersectionality of what happens with marginalized communities that may be from communities of color and LGBTQ. And so those things during the pandemic, those things that became front and center after George Floyd, those things that are happening now around anti-LGBTQ legislation that is affecting all of our communities across the country, it has been a really exciting time for progress, and also a time where I think a lot of us have been surprised by the fights that we're fighting again, that those of us who've been here for a while, we remember fighting this fight 20 years ago. around, letting people show up, encouraging people to show up, allowing the space for people to show up as who they are. That's being pushed back now. And so there's a lot of different things that we have to think about in the world at Octagon, and how it is that we become at the place where people understand that they can show up and be themselves. In fact, it's more valuable for all of us when we have an environment that allows people to do that.
Would you talk about your role and how that influences marketing and campaigns for OSEN clients?
Yeah, I mean, it's about having a seat at the table. There was, one of the leaders that I worked with at the Victory Fund a few years ago. One of the things that she liked to say is that if you don't have a seat at the table, then you might be on the menu. And right. And
Yeah.
so and so for us, it's about making sure that we have a seat at the table with our clients. There were years and years in sort of the agency landscape where you would have an entire room full of men who are working on a woman's campaign.
Yeah.
We have a lot of different great ideas that come from all sorts of places. But if you have the cultural competency around a table, if you have a diverse table of people when you're coming up with campaigns, experiences to create marketing or public relations strategies, if you don't have people represented around the table that are part of your consumer target, then most likely you're going to be missing out. And so that's part and parcel of what it is that my job is to do, is to make sure that there are diverse collections of ideas at all of our collective tables. Certainly, that ambitious goal, I think, of having a diversity around all our tables is a work in progress. This did not happen overnight in the way that we have been sort of marginalized in different places around the world and different businesses. It's not going to change overnight, but with some consistency in that goal, with leadership. My leadership at Octagon Sports Entertainment is a very, very, very inclusive group of people, and they have entrusted me to help them continue to open up how many seats we have at the table so that we're not on the menu.
Good. We want to be seated right there.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Stephen, would you share a little bit about some upcoming campaigns that you or your clients are excited about?
Yeah, I mean, God, so many. I think one of the campaigns that we are excited to have launched last week and we've been working on it for a year and a half, is a new children's show called Kia and the Kimojo Heroes.
Oh, yeah.
And Kia has been handcrafted by our clients at E1, the production arm of Hasbro. And it is a show about a protagonist who's four. Kia is Black. She is also a superhero. Having a Black female protagonist who's also a superhero in children's programming there's still a big gap in that representation. And what we know is that when children see themselves reflected back from the screen, whether the small screen or the big screen, that their level of confidence increases, how it is that they contribute to their neighborhood, to their schoolyard, eventually as adults, to their workplace and to the community that they live in, is very impacted really well.
Thank you so much to Stephen for stopping by. You can visit osen-id.com for more on what they're doing to lead the conversation on diversity and inclusion in sports and entertainment. March is coming to a close, and we've been honoring trailblazing women all month long for Women's History Month. Today, we're honoring Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. Warren recently announced she will be running for a third term. She's one of the nation's leading advocates for economic equality, education reform, working families, and health care. During her time in Washington, Warren helped pass several bills and actions, including student loan debt cancellation, new corporate taxes, and lowering the cost of prescription drugs. Warren is the first female senator from Massachusetts and will seek re-election in 2024. Thank you so much for joining me on this Advocate today. There's so much happening in the world right now, and we are advocating for marginalized communities and issues with our content. Visit us over at advocatechannel.com and Advocate Channel on your YouTube for more. I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist. I'll see you next time.